Welcome back, everybody, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetsBirds. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christensen. Andy taking a break today. There's not even BetsBirds golf. He's writing or lying to us,
Lazy.
probably doing something else. But Matt Rooney, as always, hanging with me on a Tuesday. We'll talk some baseball. We'll talk some maybe college football, all sorts of other stuff, tennis. But let's go with last night. I know we let the world down. We didn't hit any of our first touchdown score parlays, but who looked more impressive to you last night, Buffalo or Philly?
Buffalo for me. It's nothing against Philly. I think they've looked really, really good. And we talked about how for the show that Philly to have the best record in the NFL, was NFL or NFC or most wins, looks really good right now
Most
with that
wins in the
schedule.
NFL.
But boy, does Buffalo just look kind of unstoppable. Like Tennessee went down, scored on that first drive, and tied it, and was kind of like, oh, maybe we're back in this. And then just Buffalo decided they were going to win that game by a million, and they did that. Josh Allen looks like he's playing as good a football as ever. Can he stay healthy? Can he avoid hits? Can he learn when to, avoid the contact or just tuck, not tuck it and run, throw it away, save those blows for the playoffs? We'll see. But right now, boy, they look unstoppable. Philly looks very good too, and it's more of a credit to Buffalo, I think, than it is anything against Philly. Both teams look really good, but boy, did Buffalo really look impressive.
Yeah, I think in general, Buffalo is the more impressive team. I will say, I'm not sure either team has been tested. I mean, the Rams are going to end up being a good team, but first game of the season, kind of a funky spot for them.
Yeah.
Curious to see. The Bills are going to have a spot where they go to Baltimore, at home for Pittsburgh, go to Kansas City, and then back home for Green Bay. So I think those four games will be really telling. But the Eagles, man, does this look easy? At Washington, home Jacksonville, at Arizona, home for a Dakless Cowboys team, home for the Steelers. That is probably the toughest game in that group there. At Houston, home for Washington. They do have to go to Indianapolis and they host the Packers, but Titans, Giants, Bears, Cowboys, Saints, Giants the rest of the way. It looks really easy. And like you mentioned, kudos to producer Dan, who talked me into a bet I'll almost certainly make once we get done here. Yeah, the Eagles are plus 850 to finish the season with the best record in the NFL. And at 2-0, I look at that list, they're probably favored in every one of those games. Maybe you pick them at home against Green Bay, something like that. Maybe you pick them in Indianapolis. But I mean, how many losses do you see in that list?
Not a whole lot. I mean, the NFL's weird and anything can happen on an even Sunday. And I'm sure they'll drop one or two of those that we don't see coming, but they're going to be favored in probably just about all of them, except for, like you said, maybe Green Bay. We don't really know who's going to be playing better at that point. Green Bay might get it all figured out, and certainly they look better Sunday night, but I don't, it's hard to see them losing many games in that spot. So I really like Philly in that plus 850 bet. Who is, did we see who was ahead of them? Who had shorter odds, if anybody? I'm sure the Bills probably were up there,
Buffalo
the
that had
Chiefs.
shorter odds for sure. I wonder if a team like the Buccaneers are still getting odds. I'm going to try to pull this up actually right now and see if we can figure it out. Because that was another thought I had. I mean, if the Eagles are plus 850, there must be some sort of weird Bills price or something. Um,
I got a weird red spot on my face, it looks like. That's interesting. Oh, no, it's
I'm
gone.
still trying to pull this up to see who they have for most regular seasons. But I don't see it actually in my menu. But yeah, you'd have to think the Bills are ahead of them.
No, we got
Um,
Dan typing here. It's the Bills, the Bucks, and the Chiefs.
There you go. Bills, Bucks, and Chiefs. That makes sense to me. So yeah,
I mean,
I could see the Bills. Obviously, they deserve to be a favorite. They look great, but again, that really tough sort of 4 week spot there. They got a Vikings, Browns back to back, which could be tough. Just a funky schedule of the Bengals at the end of the season, and maybe the Bengals are trying to claw their way to the playoffs.
mhm.
But we'll see. It's a pretty fun overall. Again, it's funny being in Philadelphia. Everybody's excited on the radio. Everyone's doing their apologies to Jalen Hurts and Howie Roseman columns and articles and diatribes today, because it was one of the things that I'm disappointed I didn't draft Jalen Hurts more in fantasy, because Philadelphia fans and the radio folks all summer, all they talked about was how Jalen Hurts couldn't get it done. We should have traded Jalen Hurts for Russell Wilson and all that crap. And it's just nice to see Hurts do well, and it's more fun to be here when the Eagles are good. So
It's
isn't
nice
that
to
nice?
see one of these quarterbacks. I guess now two of them, if you count Tua in that regard, who, you know, showed some flashes in the last couple of years, weren't quite consistent, and got the time, got to develop, got the weapons around them to help, got some offensive line help, and lo and behold, they're paying off because they actually took time and patience. It's like it's not like everybody is going to be Patrick Mahomes that jumps in as right away a superstar. Josh Allen took a couple of years, and now look at him. Like you think you have the talent in a guy, I know you have to make a decision by year 5 by the 5th-year option, but like give these guys time to develop and then give them the weapons and then wait until they have those weapons to make the final decision on it. But it's been nice to see Jalen Hurts and Tua, those two specifically, kind of start proving some people wrong once they got the time to develop, time to adjust to the league, and then got A-plus weapons put around them.
Yeah, I can dig it. Let's jump into some baseball. I did check. We don't have quite day ball. It's more like late afternoon ball. But
yeah,
what do we got here today?
So I'll start with at the bottom here with Dan's Braves. I faded on this show and in the baseball blog a bunch. Patrick Corbin, who's starting for the Nationals, one of the worst starters in baseball, one of the worst free agent signings in Major League history. He goes up against the Braves for the Nationals in Atlanta. Charlie Morton's throwing for the Braves. He's been fine this year. He hasn't been spectacular, but kind of what they'd expect an aging veteran to be. They're like minus 300 something on the money line. They're in a division race against a very bad team at home. I'm going to take them on the money line, and I wanted to get some. I looked at first half lines. I looked at first 3 inning lines. There's really just no value on betting the Braves in this one. So I figured I'd parlay them with their NL East counterpart, the team they're chasing, a game behind in the NL East with the Mets, who are coming off a big win last night against the Brewers. Or the Max Scherzer came off the IL through just absolutely spectacular. I think he had a perfect game going into the 6th or something like that. But they look really good. They have Carlos Carrasco throwing tonight, who's been pretty darn good since coming off the IL. He's got just 2 earned runs combined in his last 2 starts, which were 6 innings apiece. So he's throwing the ball well. Give me an NL East money line parlay at plus 148. And I'm going to go with my White Sox here tonight. And this is on FanDuel. If you scroll to the bottom of these of the game,
like
all the bets, they have player performance doubles. This is a White Sox player performance double. We're going to take Dylan Cease 7+ strikeouts and the White Sox on the money line. Dylan Cease is one of, if not the front runner for the AL Cy Young right now with Verlander. I know Verlander's back, but he missed some time due to injury. Shane McClanahan fell off and was injured for a little bit there. Dylan Cease is looking like he might be the guy right now, or at least have a case for it. He's going up against Aaron Savali for Cleveland, who hasn't thrown a ton this year. I think he's only got about 75 innings on the season. He hasn't been all that good. He's got an ERA in the mid-5s. Granted, he's thrown okay against the Sox, but most Cleveland pitchers do. Cease has been really good his last 2 starts against Cleveland. Hasn't allowed an earned run in 13 innings. It was 6 innings start. Sorry, 11.2 innings. It was a 6-inning start and 5 2/3 inning starts. He has 13 strikeouts. That's where I got the number 13 in those 2 starts against Cleveland. So he's thrown against pretty well against them this year. And it's a must-win spot for the White Sox. They need to sweep the 3-game set in order to get the tiebreaker because they got rid of the 1-game playoffs. They are 4 games behind Cleveland, so this is a must-sweep series for the Sox. They have their ace. I like him to have a lot of strikeouts tonight and the White Sox to win, not just because their backs are up against the wall, but the pitching matchup is heavily skewed in their favor.
I can dig it. I like that. What was the price on that double?
As well. I thought I must say it's plus 260. So I mean, Cease is he's got 214 strikeouts on the year. I think he's 4th in baseball. He's up near the top of the AL. He strikes out a lot of batters. I like him at home, and the plus 260. I mean, I really like that value.
Yeah,
his strikeout total was probably 7.5.
Sounds about right. I like both of those. That sounds fun. I wonder if they'll let me put them all together. Anyway, we'll see. Tennis. We're in Asia still. Tokyo, Seoul. It's again. I kind of like this time of the year, Matt. I go to sleep. They start playing. I get up. It's all over. I kind of see what happens. There's no real worrying or being.
I kind of like, there's something refreshing about not watching your bets and just waking up to see what happened. It really takes the stress out of it.
It really does. And we'll dive back into Asia, but we do also have, I know how much you love clay tennis. We've got a clay tournament in Budapest there. But let's start in Tokyo. Queen Zhang is back on the court. It's going to take her to beat Paula Badosa here at minus 115. Badosa just really having a poor year. Not sure if there's some sort of nagging injury or something going on there, but really struggled here the last couple months of the year. Comes to Tokyo as a high seed. Not really impressed with what she's done lately. We know how much I love Zhang here, and looking at her numbers, especially against some of the better players here, just really like this at minus 115. Had Zhang closer to minus 145 again before tweaking some stuff for honestly how pitiful Badosa's been towards the end of the season here, and how much of a grind it can be just to get out here and even get through a few matches. But Zhang will also do that. And in the first set, over 9.5 games. Although, again, I don't think terribly highly of Badosa. She's very competitive in first sets. Same thing with Zhang here. The full match over right at 21.5. But over 9.5 games, I'm seeing it less than standard juice, plus money a few spots. So poke around. Just looks like a great number to me. Again, I would have this at 10. So to be able to get that all important half game, especially at plus money at a few spots, looks really good to me. Cass and Sava won for us yesterday as a short dog. Really like her tomorrow. Again, much bigger dog. It was only like plus 105 yesterday in a match where, thought she should be a slight favorite. Comes up again against Rebecca Marino, who Marino having a pretty good end to the season. Someone who I think will be successful in some of these hard courts eventually, but nowhere near the level I think she needs to be minus 350, minus 340, what you're seeing in this match here. Catherine Zava playing some good tennis, a young player sort of getting better. Again, Marino, a class ahead of her for sure, a mediocre WTA player, whereas Catherine Zava sort of working her way up to that level, but just a really big number. I would have this closer to plus 190, plus 200, and maybe 3.5, or a very juicy 4, but plus 4.5 games, even plus money out there. So you'll see some 5s. If you can get 5 at minus 115 or better, that looks good. But just really like that spot. I think at the very least that's going to be a close, long match, and Kasanseva will certainly have her chances. Finally, Danka Kovinic, you might remember last time we saw her, she was getting beat up at the U.S. Open while everyone was cheering for Serena Williams, no matter what she did. And it's just a tough spot to be in. She gets back on clay, a much better surface for her. Goes against Tamara Korpach, who really struggling to figure out why she is a minus 150, minus 160 favorite in this match. I mean, and part of it is the juice and the vig on these matches are much higher given that they're smaller. I mean, you're looking at minus 150 plus 115 at some spots. So, a 35, 40-cent spread is pretty rough. But Korpach, haven't seen much from her this year. I look at her numbers, not nearly as good on clay. Just everything in this match points to Kovinic being a short favorite. So plus 115 I'm seeing now, plus 125 I saw earlier. All the numbers look good to me. So we'll have that one early on, probably while you're having your coffee, and the other ones will be overnight, probably while you're asleep.
I was just kind of thinking this. Does tennis really have an off season, or is it kind of like golf where like even when it's over, there's still there's still something going on just about every week? Because I feel like there's never really been a day on this show where you don't have something, maybe a day, but there hasn't been a week on this show where you go without bets.
December. It's very few tennis
Okay.
tournaments in December. That's generally when they do it. Yeah, it's kind of like golf, basically. Some of the players will kind of close shop September, October. Some of them will play in November, but December, hardly any events. And in January, we're right down under, and the Australian Open starts at the end of the month. So very quick turnaround.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So similar to kind of like soccer, where they just kind of have the 1 month off and then they're right back to it. That makes sense. Give them Christmas off. I like that.
So we got a little college football here.
I have
a little Big Ten ball. Is this on Saturday?
I have some Big Ten ball and I have some Pac-12. I have another bet that I kind of want to follow up on. It was a preseason one that I gave you, a sad under, we'll call it. But I also have a game this week. I'm going to be sticking with Andy's Minnesota Gophers that I gave out on Friday. Gave them out minus 27.5 at home against Colorado, and that was never in doubt. They were up 28-0. I think it was at halftime, 149-7. We're going to go Minnesota, Michigan State's first half under 24.5. Both teams have actually scored a good amount of points this year, played in some higher scoring games. Michigan State, though, really just having just played Washington, kind of that was the only game between these two teams that was against like anybody. Minnesota's played a very, very soft schedule so far, and they've had some high scoring games. But Michigan State, even though they weren't all that impressive against Washington, is by far the best team they're going to play, and Minnesota has to go on the road. Minnesota's offense is based around their run game. They have two really good running backs. Michigan State, granted against not the best of competition so far, and a team in Washington that throws the ball well, still has pretty much shut down the run this year. That they're allowing under 100 yards a game on the ground. So Michigan State's something they've done so well defensively to counteract what Minnesota does well offensively. And I think Minnesota going up against their first real opponent of the year, it's going to take them a little bit longer to kind of get going. I think the game speed is going to be a little bit faster for them, and it's Big Ten conference game. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a feeling out process early. The I think the total is like 51.5. I'm not saying I'd go under that because I think it probably still does get over at some point. I just think this one starts a little bit slower when we hit that first half under 24.5. And to follow up on Colorado's regular season win total, I believe it was 3.5 that I gave out the under for earlier before the season started. if you go to FanDuel, you go to the regular season wins tab, there is one bet available, and that is Colorado over under half a win, with the over being minus 125, under being plus 105. I'm pulling up their schedule now, and I was looking at it earlier.
Buffalo.
Like they got they got home against UCLA. They're not going to win that game. UCLA just survived at home against South Alabama, but we're kind of learning that the Sun Belt's a pretty good conference, and I don't think UCLA overlooks a second opponent in Colorado. They go to Arizona, which is, I would say, would be their most winnable game left, but like that's a sneaky kind of difficult place to play at night when you're not a very good football team. And Arizona's actually looked fairly competent so far this year. They have Cal at home. That might be kind of winnable, but Cal plays really good defense, and Colorado can't really score. After that, like, there's really not much. They close the season with 4 straight ranked teams. They have to go to a very, very solid Oregon State team. They're not going to win that one. Arizona State just fired Herm Edwards, so maybe that's one they could steal at home. But, like, the rest of their schedule is pretty darn difficult. They've given up 38-plus points in all 3 of their games so far. I really I haven't taken it yet, and I'll probably regret not taking it, but I think that under half a win might be worth a flyer, and I think this is probably something we'll get into a little bit later on the Blogger Bowl with me, Dan, and Phil. That's not a tease, but kind of a tease. But I saw this and I wanted to bring it up. I'm not taking a bet yet, but I just thought that was very interesting that FanDuel already has this prop up for you, and it's the only regular season win total you can still find.
It sure is interesting to try to decide a team that can win one lousy football game, but another sad year for the Buffalo.
Sad time to be a Buffalo.
All right, I think that's all we've got today. Anything else you want to touch on for the people here before we wrap it up and beg for some likes and whatnot?
Subscribe to the BetSperts Media YouTube page. That makes Andy really happy, even though Andy's taking the day off today. We can still make him happy with some likes. And yeah, I think that's about all we got. Go sign up for all of our sponsors. What is that? Profit Exchange, Prize Picks, all those good stuff.
Prize Picks, FanDuel, DraftKings. Get that DraftKings Eagles.
Tune into the Blogger Bowl too, live today at 2 p.m. Eastern on this very same YouTube channel.
There you go. More Maddie talking college football. So lots to do, and we're busy too. See you tomorrow.